For God's sake, let us sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings, how some have been deposed, some slain in war, some haunted by the ghosts they have deposed, some poisoned by their wives, some sleeping killed, all murdered. For within the hollow crown that rounds the mortal temples of a king, keeps death his court, and there the antic sits, scoffing his state and grinning at his pomp, allowing him a breath, a little scene, to monarchize, be feared and kill with looks, infusing him with self and vain conceit, as if this flesh which walls about our life were brass impregnable, and humored thus comes at the last, and with a little pin bores through his castle wall, and farewell king. William Shakespeare's Richard II, Act 3, Scene 2.
Greetings, friends. Welcome to the Pin Tool Podcast. My name is Al Wayman, owner of Creek Road Pottery in Laceyville, Pennsylvania, next to the cold Tuscarora Creek. Pull up a chair around the wheel as we discuss topics concerning the art and craft of pottery, good books, storytelling, marketing, and creating work that matters for folks who care.
Greetings, friends. Welcome to the Pin Tool Podcast. This is Season 5, Episode 2. Again, it's been a real long time, and I've been very busy, and the winter just won't let go. We're still having cold weather, and the Tuscarora Creek is still running very cold. It started warming up a little bit during the days, and I was able to get through my spring show. I fired out a few kiln loads of pots. Didn't really have any trouble on those firings. I had to refire some blues from the Christmas show, and I just fired a little bit hotter, and the pinholes came right out. So that was a relief. So I had some nice casserole dishes, some nice mugs, did some little creamers, little handheld creamers, and I did tumblers, some bowls, and some other things. And I had a real fun time. So I also tried my hand a little bit at milk glazing. So I took the pots and after I fired them to cone 6, I let them soak in milk, some whole milk and unpasteurized milk, because I wanted high fat content. So I got a gallon of unpasteurized milk from one of the farms up the road, and I soaked the pots for about 15 minutes. I dunked them on the outsides. I intentionally left the outsides raw clay before I glazed them. So I have a liner glaze on inside all the pots. I left the outsides raw. I fired them to full temperature, to cone 6, and then I soaked the pots afterwards in raw milk for about 15 minutes. Then I put them in the little Amoco updraft and took them to about 600 degrees until you can see that clay brown right up on the outside. So I used the milk as a decorative element on the pots. So here you have this really high fire inside and really low primitive fire, decorative fire outside. So a lot of times we decorate our pots with lower temp firings, like you might use gold luster or some other things. And plenty of people do horsehair firings, things like that. So I just wanted to try milk glazing, and it was a lot of fun. Then, to put another decorative element on top of that, I did line drips when the pots were sideways using honey and maple syrup. So my friends up the road, they're making maple syrup. So I was able to go up there and get some great maple syrup, Back Road Maple. And then I went up to Mountain Ridge Farms got some honey from their honeybees, and I drizzled some on those mugs, and turned out really interesting. So these are hand wash only, but it's baked on to 600, and that char is right in there. And unless you really scrub, like as a decorative element, it's not really going to come off. So I made it through all that, and was busy with work and a whole bunch of different things. And then during the show, the kiln builder and potter and teacher from our area, Jack Troy, stopped by, and he wanted to take a look at the kiln. And so I didn't recognize him at first because I had some other people coming through. And when he said his name, I was like, oh, wow. So I'm glad he stopped by. We sat near the big buddy, and he talked about the work. He gave me some really helpful ideas and some really helpful feedback. And I am forever grateful to the older people of our craft passing on knowledge to us younger folks. And he's getting up there. He wrote 2 books. One was back in the 70s, one was back in the 80s, both on firing pots. And one was on stoneware and porcelain and wood fire. It's a good wood fire book. It's really hard to find because he was saying he wished he did a second printing of that, but he didn't. But I was able to find both books used online, and now I have them both. And we've been writing old-time handwriting back and forth some, so that was helpful also. And so now I'm just waiting for the nights to not freeze so that I can start that kiln once more this year. And my big push this year is to get the roof on the firebox with that tatami brick and also the arch up on the kiln. And that way I can just do out the chimney and have it done. So, with everything that's been going on, and with the war in the Middle East and the price of fuel going up, there are a few things that I would like to talk about on how to be sustainable during bad times. So I'm not sure where in the world you are, and I'm not sure how much hardship is being felt where you're at, but I think it's a good time to talk about those things. And so I think we'll do that today. We'll talk about how to make it through hard times and still make work that matters for people who care. So go grab a cup of coffee, and we are sitting in the pottery shed today with the pots, and we're having a beer. We're having a beer, sitting in the pottery shed, and we're going to talk about hardship and making work and being self-reliant when bad times happen. Because they do, right? And they have in the past. And we should never forget those bad times. And whenever they do happen, we should always ask, compared to what, right? We might be having a bad time, but compared to what? So, go grab your coffee or beer, meet me back here, and we'll have a discussion on that. See you then. Okay, friends, welcome back to the Pottery Shed. Pull up a chair, get your beer or coffee. I'm gonna pour a Yingling here because I'm in Laceyville, Pennsylvania, and the brewery is probably about an hour and a half away. It's always good to support the brewery, you know? There we go. I wanted this discussion to be about self-reliance and what happens during hard times. A lot of the pottery podcasts, they shy away from politics quite a bit because it causes a lot of division. Politics, religion, sex, money, all those things that you should not talk about at Thanksgiving dinner. It's usually excluded from the pottery podcasts and the pottery groups. Some would say for good reasons. However, that does not mean that all those things do not affect how we create work that matters for people who care. It has a huge impact on the work we make, how we create, because we are sponges and we take all that in, right? And we process it and it comes out through our creations. On this podcast, I don't have any sponsors. I don't take any ad money. And for the most part, that means I'm free to talk about whatever I would like to talk about. So there are some pretty horrible things, in my opinion, going on in politics and in the world. And all of that is going to influence you in some way. So if you believe that that's a positive thing, good for you, right? I'm happy for you. But for a lot of people, it may not be. So I guess we need to prepare for that. That doesn't mean stop making work. That doesn't mean we sit and twiddle our thumbs and worry ourselves to death with anxiety. We need to ask ourselves, what can we do to keep creating in bad times, in hard times, and in times where you might have a lot of stress and anxiety, and in times where you may not even feel like showing up at the studio. But what I want to say is that resistance, anxiety, and worries and apocalypticism will rob our vision of the future and what it can be. Being creative will give you hope and a vision of shaping that future and what it can be. So by creating, we are creating the future day by day, hour by hour. So we have no idea what the future will be. I have no idea how bad it will get. But currently in the present, it looks like it's not going in a very good direction. So what do we do about it? When the customers stop buying and funds start drying up, there are a few things that I learned from past experience, because we've all been there, right? And one of the things that is very beneficial to you is never forgetting what it was like to make work when you were broke as heck. When you did not have a dollar to your name and things were so horrible, what did you do? We made it to where we are today. And those lessons can be a gift to us, meaning that we can look back at all those sufferings and how far we've come, and we can even maybe enjoy those sufferings and how far we come through the attitude of having gratitude and empathy and generosity. Generosity to ourselves, empathy to ourselves, and gratitude to ourselves. We can say, thank you, past self, for making it through all those terrible times and allowing us to have what we have here, right now, even though it could be terrible. So you could be You could be in a country that's getting missiles and bombs rained down on you right now. I have a mug from a potter in the Ukraine who lived in those very conditions. Every time I have a coffee out of that cup, I think about that. I think about that. Even still, while missiles and bombs were raining down on her country, she was still making pots and sending some of that money to support the troops that were protecting her country. And when bad things happen to me now, and I'm drinking a coffee from her cup, I'm saying I don't have it nearly as bad as that. So there always can be something that is far worse. Coming from ideas of Viktor Frankl, you are not your situation, and you are not what is happening to you. Meaning that you cannot possibly control every situation. We can only control how we react to those situations. So our attitude is a freedom that we have, and it can never be taken away from us. Our attitude can never be taken away from us, even when we're about to face death. We can still have a healthy attitude about the life that we lived and our contributions that we have already made. I think that a lot of times we might look at the world, and when we see the news and hear about the news, hear things from our bubbles, hear things from outside our bubbles, we need to remember how to react in a way that brings about a positive future. Because if we choose differently, we can bring about the change we seek to make. So I think one of the things that I always do when I am plumb broke, like back in the pandemic days, and there were times when I went into the studio and I had a little bit of, survivor's remorse, simply because people are coming online and you're saying, we had these community studios that they were our lifelines, like they were the only place we could make work at, and they were just shut right down. And one of the big things that the pottery groups did was to put on workshops and all kinds of things online on Zoom, and it was a great time where everybody just banded together, created together, and did learning together through the hard times, and it made it that much better. There were times when I may not have had a dime to my name, and it could be me tomorrow. I think if that were to happen, probably the things that you would do first is to go down into the studio and at least show up. And I know from working at the big paper factory and in manufacturing, what we do when times are slow, that's the time we do all the cleaning, all the maintenance, and all the innovation. So if you are plumb broke and down, you go clean your studio, you make repairs, and you get ready for the times when everything will come back. So that downtime is a great time to start that little side project that you always wanted to find out what would happen. That little side project that may not work, get that little side project working, and come back that much stronger. Redo your studio, do the cleaning, and maybe take some online classes, like free classes, watch some YouTube videos. There's plenty of things that you can do. And I think that the despair and resistance wants us in our misery and sufferings to not show up. Because resistance knows that if we don't show up at least, that it will have won, and it has kept us from creating a vision of the future of what it could be. And it will rob us from that vision. Because it's easier to sit and doom scroll and see all the atrocities being committed by your tax dollars, all kinds of things, right? All kinds of horrible, unjust things. And that's the world in general. The world is an unjust place. In a lot of places, it is not fair. And I hate to tell you this, but there's no ship coming in, and there's nobody that's going to solve all those problems for you. It's only you. So you need to do things that re-envisions the future and what it can be. So we talked about cleaning up the studio. You would do innovation. You would run those glaze tests if you could, right? Do what you can. Maybe you could just go down and throw for a day, get practice at throwing different types of forms, fold down that clay that you had, reprocess it, try something else, and just try to keep your hands in the clay and working as much as you can through the bad and terrible times. So another thing that I'm facing here is the high cost of fuel, because I run all updraft gas kilns. So I went and looked at different places, and I was able to get plans for doing that are fired to temperature with using wood, but you make like a little trough. The name of that is slipping from my mind on what that is. They make little camp stoves with the same idea. Anyways, I may convert 2 of my kilns to fire that way. Rocket kiln. So you can fire to cone 6 in probably the same amount of time as you can in gas, and it gets really hot. So I have 2 kilns that I'm thinking about converting once things get much worse. So I was able to fill the 2 tanks with gas while the price was still fairly cheap. So I have enough to probably get me to my Christmas show. So that's really decent. I canceled out some shows this year in order to work on the wood kiln. If I can at least have 2 of those little smaller kilns converted, they're just electric kilns, medium size, and I can fire them out to temperature with wood through this type of firing method, that would be great. So I have the brick to do it, and so I'm going to make the little conversions and make the pivot if things get much worse than it is. So that's one way I can pivot and make work, even if the cost of fuel is sky high and the cost of electric is sky high. If I put my time and energy into it, that'll be a huge benefit to me. Don't get me wrong, all these innovations and having hardship is hard work. Being independent is hard work. Like, you have to work at it, because you are not given things, and you're not given benefits that would come from being with a community or with a group or sponsored by somebody or having a huge following that would send you funds or grants to do certain things. All those things are fine. But when you're plumb broke, yeah, it's not there. It's only you. Maybe a few of your supporters who will come through, but you should not count on it. You should not be like the grasshopper, have fun all summer long and not store up food and provisions for the winter, like the ants, right? So we got to be like ants, but not too much like ants, because at times ants can overdo it, and at times we can be so worried about the future that we forget to live in the present. So we need a type of balance, right? We need a balance. So another thing, besides the innovation, besides the deep clean, we can take to learning things. You can educate yourself about the pots. You can educate yourself about new ideas. You can sketch and you can come up with new forms and maybe totally revamp your whole business plan, now's the time to do that. Now would be the time in bad times to do your mission statement, your core values, and your guiding principles. That's the time to do it when things are slow. Because when you're banging stuff out and you need to do things in a hurry to meet all the deadlines, to get work done for the shows, and it's good times, pots are flying out the door, you may not have time to do all those other maintenance things, maintenance of your business, and maintenance of your ideas and creativity in planning. So you would take time to do the planning, take time to educate yourself, learn new techniques. I took a 9-month class it was, last year with Amy Polarnik, and it was the best thing ever for me. So I'm throwing better. So I would advise that if you have downtime, instead of doom scrolling, scroll on to something that would be beneficial to you, and then maybe write down 5 or 6 things and go try those things. One of them might work, right? So another thing that you can do during hard times is that's the time to go and connect with others. So this isn't connecting with others, is to share ideas and kind of have a little support group on what you're going through so that you don't believe you're the only one that's broke, right? However, don't wallow. Make it a meetup where you can be creative in supporting one another and finding solutions to problems, right? Because that's what artists are also. Artists aren't only creators. While we're creating, we're solving problems. So just because people like Plato and other philosophers kind of thought that leaders of countries and states should be philosophers, I always thought that like the leader of my country or state should be an artist, right? Because we always pick our own guys, our own gals. And I think that a lot of times being able to identify with what others are going through and having empathy, there might be something that clicks for you that will spur you and that will be inspiring to you to keep going. And meeting up with others who are also having a bad time allows you to show up for them and is a part of showing up. And we all know that when we show up and we start working and start doing, the muse comes to us. It doesn't come to us when we're sitting and not doing anything. It doesn't come to us with intent to create. It comes to us when we are actually in the act of creating. So by showing up to others, that's a form of creating because we're creating community, right? So just like we did during COVID, a lot of people banded together. They were home. A lot of people were broke. The economy was bad. They banded together and found solutions to problems they had. And they learned from others. And we all got through it. So I think that no matter where you are in the world, hopefully you can take some of this advice. It's not all going to be good, but maybe a small part of it is. Think about what you're grateful for. Think about how you can be generous and show empathy. And always ask compared to what? And always ask, who are you making your work for? And what change you're trying to make? Because we always want to hold some type of vision in the future of what we wished it could be and work towards that. Because if we are robbed of that vision for whatever reason, Could be because of politics, because of religion, because of our addictions, because of many different things, our anxieties, our worries, our finances. If that vision gets stolen from us, things get pretty bad. It will take everything that we have. It will steal everything from us. Resistance will steal everything from us. And we will become slaves to ourselves and slaves to the society we live in, slaves to our fears. We will feel defeated. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you. Hopefully you can remember how far you've come, how far you've traveled, and hopefully you will be able to even enjoy your sufferings after a time. That's what the whole Odyssey was about by Homer. That's what the whole Iliad was about. That's what the whole story of Dante's Inferno was about. It was about making it through. After we've traveled far and have seen much, we come to even enjoy our sufferings after a time. Because they teach us something. They teach us how to have empathy. They teach us how to be generous and how to have gratitude. All right, friends. So that's my little sermon. If you get a chance, read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning book. It's an excellent book. And feel free to shoot me an email or even write me a letter in old-timey fashion. I'll be waiting for that letter by the mailbox when you do. My address is on creekroadpottery.com. You will find the pottery pen pal link, and there my address will be. Shoot me a letter, and I'll be sure to write you back. And let me know what you think about the podcast. Give it a like, a thumbs up. I don't know what you do. I hardly ever look at the views because I do this out of generosity and the goodness of my heart. And I hope that at least one person finds this podcast somewhat enjoyable. When I take the time to post, I've been horrible. So I need to do better, right? And I need to show up and get a better streak going. But it is season 5, episode 2. So I've showed up at least for that much. And I'm grateful for that. Okay, friends. Well, I hope that you have a great day and keep making work that matters for people who care. So I hope all your pots turn out amazing during these fair and foul times.